Greetings today. This is Mr. Pop Culture Phenomenon here, and I am bringing you guys today another podcast. So, in today's podcast, we are going to be discussing the number one superhero show on television. Yes, I repeat, the number one superhero show on television. And believe it or not, you guys are gonna not, a lot of you might not even know what I'm gonna say, but the answer is The Boys. Yes, I said it, The Boys. Right now, it is a superhero slash superhuman being show that is streaming on Amazon, Vudu, and Apple TV. So if you guys have not checked that out yet, please be sure to check out this TV show. And before I dive in as to why it's the number one superhero show on television, always remember to like, listen, and subscribe below. And till then, take care and let's get started. Hands down, The Boys is the most underrated TV show of this genre that's out there on the market. From writers Evan Goldberg, Seth Rogen, and Eric Kripke. This show is based off the original comic book series The Boys, which was written by Garth Ennis, and at the time it was under DC Comics. And for the first issues 1 through 6, DC maintained all publishing rights to this self-written comic book series. And then later on, DC sold everything to Dynamite Entertainment. And I'm sure they did this at a time before the success of the TV show. Because if DC saw what was going to happen in the future with the success of The Boys TV show, I'm sure they would have never let that happen and never let this TV show get out of their reach. But, oh well, shit happens. You know, it is what it is, and sometimes you let go of things or you misjudge certain things in certain situations, and it actually turns out that you let go of a really good situation or scenario. So, when we get into the basic plot of this story, it's basically, the theme is you got superheroes that are as popular as celebrities, influential as politicians, and even sometimes to be seen or revered as gods. But what happens when the heroes go rogue and start abusing their powers when it's the powerless against the super powerful? So we have the world's 7 most powerful and influential superheroes, and they are ran by this dirty company called Vault. And these superheroes are called the 7. And so we see Vought and throughout the show realize that they use the superheroes, the 7, as part of their corporate business to do dirty deeds. I mean, in the public's eye, they're seen as noble, majestic, and justice. But behind the scenes, we see these so-called heroes killing CEOs of rival companies to Vault. We see them experimenting on people and trying to create new superhumans. And then as the show goes on, we see that the company is vice versa, covering up the dirty deeds that the superheroes are doing. For example, and this is just throwing one thing out there, for example, that starts off right away on episode 1. But in one of the 7, they have the world's fastest man. And he's kind of like their Flash. And basically, he's been addicted to drugs throughout the show. And you see that right off the bat, he gets so hyped off of drugs that he can't stop running. So while he's running, he literally is running on a sidewalk faster than the speed of light and just runs into a lady walking on a sidewalk. And then she just explodes into a million pieces. I mean, it was a very graphic and epic scene in the show. So the company covers this up and says, she was walking in the middle of the road and that it was a accident. But we all know the truth and we saw what actually happened when this situation occurred. So the lady who basically got killed and exploded, it happened right in front of her boyfriend. And her boyfriend, his name is Huey. And so basically the company throws him like a little $40,000 settlement and basically says move on. Later on down the show, he is visited by another guy who's had some dirty deeds done to him by the company, and his name is Butcher. And Butcher has two friends with him named MM, which is Mother's Milk, and another guy named Frenchie, who's basically like a Middle Eastern guy, but they call him Frenchie. So basically, these four guys group and team up together, and their whole goal is to expose and show the rest of the world that these superheroes aren't so super, and there's just a image and show, and they're putting on a public display for the public to see. But also, too, that the company that's backing them up is just as dirty and just as corrupted. And it's just like, so you got the four boys versus the superheroes and this major billion-dollar company. And that's kind of really the basic plot to this TV show. And it's really good when you get into it. Super graphic, but also really good. But as we get into the characters of the show, the main character, Homelander, who was played by Anthony Starr, I believe is the actor's name, he literally just steals the show. And the character that he plays of Homelander is basically the world's strongest superhuman. I mean, he's had everything thrown at him that could try to destroy him. And they literally came to the conclusion that this guy has no weaknesses. And he's basically like a Captain America mixed with a Superman, at least to the public, and that's what they see, and that's how the company's displaying them and marketing them as. But when you see behind the scenes, and when you see like the real nature of this character, you start to see and realize that he's like the most evil and corrupted supposed hero out there today. I mean, like, as you watch the show, you see that he kills for fun, gets pleasure from it, doesn't save people who need rescuing, and the company is starting to see and realize that he's too powerful to control and that he's getting out of hand. He also, too, is realizing that I'm the world's most powerful man. Why am I taking orders from a company who's just as corrupted as I am? It's nothing but a bunch of fat cat billionaires who are serving their own agendas. So Homelander kind of does realize that too, and he's slowly, bit by bit, you can kind of start to see that as the show progresses, that he kind of goes off the rails. Now, overall, my evaluation of this show is, it's a show about superheroes, but truthfully, none of them are heroes. It's just a show about superhumans that are corrupted, evil, and also with these given abilities, do things that we think a lot of us would do if we were tempted and gave in to our temptations. That's why in like the TV show Jupiter's Legacy, before they were given their powers, they had to be tested. And basically, they had to pass the test as a team. And that they saw there was so many different lifetimes and so many different cycles of people that were tested that never passed. And that was the one thing I liked about that show was like, I mean, it's the old phrase in the superhero show. It's like, with great power comes great responsibility. And I remember like the person who got tested the hardest in Jupiter's Legacy actually turned out in the end to be the world's strongest hero. But in this reality, you are seeing people just be given powers left and right with no discipline achieved before receiving them. And I mean, these are the type of circumstances you're going to get in this show. I mean, you've got the world's strongest and like coolest superhero that's probably actually the opposite. And you got like, there's another example of a guy in here that's a really well-known priest. But truthfully, when you see his dirty deeds and his secrets, that he's like a gay priest and he likes to get drunk and do drugs and have sex with men. But to the public, he's married to a wife, he has kids, and it's the images that they're portraying, but it shows people behind the scenes. I mean, it's like a superhero, superhuman show, like mixed with like politicians mixed with the wild, wild west. Because you see a lot of backdoor deeds, you see a lot of like wild, wild west, just gun show, hoorah, bang, bang. But also too, it's like, it's kind of grounded, because it's like we can see from the point of view of like people like us that are normal Joes or average human beings, and you see how these like people that are given special abilities are just slowly getting out of control. And it's like, well, hey, before this goes too far, who's going to check these type of people? And we don't, now as the show progresses, you can kind of see that these people can't be checked or contained. There's not no weapon that can stop these people. And how do you try to put a lid on this to a particular situation that can't be contained? So it's really cool what you see how the show and the plot and where it's headed. And I believe right now on those platforms that it's streaming on, the first 2 seasons are out right now, so I do recommend going and watch it. And they just finished up filming the 3rd season, so it still is yet to be announced when it'll actually be out on the streaming platforms. But overall, I give this show a A rating for entertainment. And I highly, highly recommend you guys watching The Boys. It's seriously, when you watch it, you will be addicted. And it's, in my opinion, the #1 superhero show out there on television. But it's hard to call it superhero. Well, anyways, just putting out some more content for you guys today. Once again, this is Mr. Pop Culture Phenomenon here. And thank you guys for listening to my content. And once again, like, listen, and subscribe. And please leave your comments below. All I ask is that you keep it positive. Thank you, and take care.